Secretary Tillerson now turning up the heat on North Korea. President Trump warning there could be a, quote, major conflict over its rogue nuclear and ballistic missile programs. Mr. Tillerson telling Bret Baier on Special Report last evening that this administration has a deliberate strategy.
Tensions are running a bit high right now. We expected they would. In our approach to addressing this issue, we know there's going to be risk involved. Those risks are very measured, and we've shared those with the President. He's been very deliberate about the actions that he's asked us to take. In the past, the assumption has been the Chinese would only take limited action. We're going to test that assumption.
White House correspondent John Roberts is live on the North Lawn with more. Good morning, John.
Shannon, good morning to you. And the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, will be chairing that meeting of the United Nations Security Council, which is set to begin in the next few minutes' time. The Secretary will be calling on the members of the Council to fully implement the sanctions regime against Pyongyang and also increase diplomatic pressure on Kim Jong-un to give up his nuclear weapons program. And the President, with some ominous language in an interview with the Reuters news agency, saying that this could be headed down a very dangerous road toward military conflict. Here's some of the audio from that interview.
Well, there's a chance that we could end up having a major conflict with North Korea. Absolutely.
For the moment, though, the President is pushing the diplomatic track and pushing it hard, bringing leverage to bear against North Korea. Speaking with Bret Baier last night, the Secretary of State saying that China is taking new steps to squeeze Kim Jong-un. Here's Rex Tillerson.
We know that China is in communications with the regime in Pyongyang. They confirmed to us that they had requested the regime conduct no further nuclear test. And in fact, we were told by the Chinese that they informed the regime that if they did conduct further nuclear tests, China would be taking sanctions actions on their own.
Interesting to note, too, that after the Secretary said that last night, China came out and said, well, we can't confirm that we're making those threats against North Korea. But according to the Secretary of State, China is taking some new action. He acknowledged that the United States is asking China to do a lot, Shannon, but says that China is coming to the realization that North Korea is a threat to it as well as the U.S. and its allies. Shannon?
So what's the message from the White House to Kim Jong-un?
There's nothing direct, but certainly in the language there are some interesting statements that are coming out. Here's more of what the President said in that Reuters interview regarding Kim Jong-un. He said, quote, he's 27 years old, his father dies, took over a regime, so say what you want, but that's not easy, especially at that age. He says that's not to his credit or against his credit, but he says he understands that taking over a country like North Korea at that age does require something of a learning curve. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson reassuring Kim Jong-un that the United States is seeking to denuclearize the Korean peninsula and not take Kim Jong-un out. Here's more of last night's interview.
We have been very clear. We do not seek regime change in North Korea. We're not seeking a collapse of the regime. We are not seeking to find some excuse for an accelerated reunification of the peninsula. What we are seeking is the same thing China has said they seek, a full denuclearization of the Korean peninsula.
So basically the message that Tillerson is sending to Kim Jong-un, take a deep breath. Pause here because we're not out to get you. He says there's a fundamental misunderstanding here that the Korean regime believes that the only way that it can survive is by acquiring nuclear weapons. Tillerson is saying the best way you can survive is to get rid of that nuclear program. Shannon?
All right. John Roberts live for us at the White House on a busy day. Thank you, sir.